Hi. Well, I wanted to talk about other olfactory perfume notes today in today's video, and one of the most fascinating olfactory notes group are the animalic notes. And these are the most polarizing scent notes, as originally back in the day, uh, the animalic notes were actually acquired by the use of original animal-derived ingredients. So animals like civet, musks, castoreum or beaver, and hieraceum, and thus this means that originally, this was created by extracting different animalic glands from these animals and then later on using these in perfume creation. Similarly to ambroxan or ambergris note from the sperm whales. And all of these notes are considered as animalic notes and were historically actively used in scent creation. They were originally very potent, so for example, deer musk could be used in very small quantities in perfume creation, but it did create a very animalic and very both beautiful and also fascinating perfume note in the perfume group. And together with the use of florals and woody notes, this creates a beautiful scent pyramid. However, these days, sadly, due to the IFRA, International Fragrance Association, and of course different Animal Rights Association initiative, this was forbidden, at least in EU, and the use of different animalic notes such as civet and so on and so forth. Thus, these days doesn't mean that the animalic notes are not present in fragrances, but that you really can't normally purchase these, at least in the EU. Because they are forbidden in the use of fragrances, and thus the synthetic notes are replacing the original animalic notes. It means that sadly, of course, the original value of the actual animal extracts in the fragrances and its scent worthiness is decreased, and thus of course original fragrances that are manufactured in 60s, 70s, 80s and so forth before the ban are fragrances that traditionally use the real animalic ingredients, and thus the scent profile will be different. Because with synthetic notes, the even though they are similar, the whole intensity will not be the same. And at the same time, it means that a lot of fragrances that were manufactured back in the day were either completely ceased in production and discontinued, or are continued but with slightly altered pyramid of the scent notes. It is a pity from one perspective. From another perspective, of course, animals have to be protected, but from the olfactory and scent creation perspective, it means that it is a major loss for the fragrance community and scent creation. But at the same time, despite this, you can still purchase for, of course, quite a bit of sum of money the original fragrances from the 80s and before that have these original notes. And thus, even though, of course, as time passes, the top notes, for example, like florally notes, would disappear, the base notes will still be present in the fragrance in most cases if you store it in a dark, dry place in a bottle that is sealed. And technically, you could still try the fragrance with original notes in it. And of course, there are some regions where you can still try the original fragrances. I believe animalic notes are still very popular in Arabic fragrances, so outside EU and third countries and so on and so forth. It is a chance that you could still try the actual original perfume notes in their fragrance formulations. Talking about animalic notes in perfumes, for example, the Chanel number 5, which is a cult fragrance and is still manufactured these days, of course, with slightly synthetic and altered notes in EU. And as it has been created in 1920s, in the last century, of course, despite its slightly altered scent profile due to these particular bands, this still uses Sadly, nowadays synthetic civet note, but back in the day, original civet note, which is a cat-like animal, which means that historically fragrances do rely on heavy use of not only floral notes and woody notes, but also animalic notes, and it is a part of fragrance. Most fragrances, especially classical fragrances, both in Arabic and French perfumes and Italian perfumes, that you really can't diminish. And talking about animalic notes such as musk, Sage-Latan's Musk Kubla-Khan, for example, is a heavy, darker musk scent. Lighter musk, of course, these days synthetic musk scent notes are present in a lot of designer fragrances, from Carolina Herrera Good Girl, having a musk and Kashmirian note that actually complements it and creates a nice, warm, fuzzy scent, to civet notes in Calvin Klein Obsession, castoreum notes, for example, in Serge Latin's Baptême de Fou, and many other both classical fragrances and also niche fragrances. For example, these zoologist perfumes heavily rely on different stories based around animalic fragrance notes. And of course, it has to be also reminded that as back in the day when the natural animalic notes were present in perfumes, it also meant that perfumes and perfume making was extra costly, because these animalic notes, the same way as, for example, oud notes deriving from the natural ingredients, also means that as the ingredients are extra expensive, the actual perfume, especially in eau de parfum and extract versions, would be extra pricey. So of course the original Chanel No. 5 extracts and perfumes from back in the day, thus of course then were also still very pricey. And at the same time, this also meant that these fragrances were even more longer lasting than the versions that are available today in the scent stores and perfume stores and makeup stores. So it is technically a bit of a loss, but at the same time, as the perfume field develops, different perfume notes are replaced by synthetic notes, either by the banning of the specific products, such as different animalic notes, as well as for instance, citrus notes in certain concentration due to potential allergic reactions of the wearers, and many other outsourcing reasons. For example, reason that the oud and other luxury sandalwood, specific sandalwood type notes would be extremely expensive. But of course, one thing to remind in regards to this fact is that you really shouldn't save on the costs of perfume making, because the perfume, being a luxury product, means that it should be top quality. So designer fragrances typically will use more available and also partially synthetic notes, while the original niche fragrances typically, especially more expensive niche fragrances, will try to use natural notes as much as possible and natural extracts in the perfume creation, of course, with the exception of these specific bands. So, thanks for the attention for today, and I will talk more about interesting perfume facts and olfactory groups, as well as do mini reviews. Thanks and bye.